a request of our IT person and a couple other folks to have a recording of the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and record now. Those of you who are in attendance, we've set this up as a webinar, and so attendees are not participating directly at this point, but we will have a section for our questions and answers. I wanted to orient folks before we get started in this meeting. Share my agenda. So this agenda is available online if you'd like to download a copy of it. I'm not going to have the agenda up the whole time through our meeting, but I did just want to orient us real quick, and I'll come back and show this agenda again as needed to refer to where we are in the meeting. But we're going to start with introductions. We'll talk about the data center project first. Then we'll talk about the Conduit Project, and then have closing comments. During the closing comment period, I'm going to bring people in, as you raise your hand. To raise your hand, there's under your name in the participants list, there's an option for raising your hand. So that is how you will be identified that you'd like to speak, and we'll pull you in for those comments. There's also opportunities throughout the meeting to be able to speak, and so just note that's how you'll get your ability to speak in this meeting. I did want to start just sort of high level with the purpose. So the purpose of this meeting is to allow the public an opportunity to learn more about the two projects that we're discussing here today. The purpose is not to discuss 5G or broadband in general or other items that may be before the Planning Commission or City Council. I will be taking a list of those items as they come up and putting them into a list of ideas and questions for future discussion and follow-up. And what we will do with those, if they do come up, is to promise to come back in either an open forum like this or through Planning Commission or City Council meetings to bring those items back before the decision makers and or the community for further discussion. The purpose of this meeting is real specifically to talk about these particular projects for the public to learn about what the projects entail. What the change to the built environment will be as a result of them, operating characteristics, and so on and so forth. Also discuss the permitting process for these projects. I want to start by saying that this is not a forum where the public is invited to recommend changes to the projects per se. The city doesn't have the authority to necessarily recommend those changes, but I do want to invite people to make their comments known to city staff and the project proponents that some of those considerations may be taken into the project design ultimately. These projects are being issued through building permits or encroachment permits. There's not a planning hearing, there's no planning commission or city council decision. These are what we call ministerial permits. There's no discretion that's authorized in the issuance of them per se. And so unlike a public hearing, which you may be used to, or where you're thinking of being able to go and tell the decision maker your concerns, and then that concern may translate into a condition of approval on the project, this is really just an opportunity for the public to meet the project proponents and learn more about the projects and to have an opportunity to make your concerns known, but the city doesn't have discretion to change the projects as a result. So I want to start just by a quick introduction. My name is David Loy, I'm the Director of Community Development. I had hoped to be able to share with you my contact information, but I will note that it's on the city's website. We don't have the ability to share as in chat functions. Netra, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Netra Khatri. I'm the city engineer for the city of Arcata. Involved in both the projects. We did receive some applications a few months ago, and we are reviewing them. And our department will be issuing building permit for data center project and an encroachment permit for the Vero Technologies project. And we'll be working with other departments and going through the process like we normally do for other projects. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I'm going to take down the share here real quick and allow the EdgeConnects folks. Can you introduce yourselves, please?
Yeah, sure thing. David, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, cool. Hey, everybody, this is Philip Marangella. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at EdgeConnects, based out of Herndon, Virginia.
Hey everyone, I'm Jack Elsey. I'm an engineer with EdgeConnects, also based out of Herndon, Virginia.
Hello everyone, this is Steve Hill. I'm the solutions architect, and I support Jack and Philip on these types of applications.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on the project team? Okay, great. Okay, and folks from Bureau Networks, can you please introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, good afternoon. This is Dave Jones. I'm Chief Technical Officer at Bureau Fiber Networks. I'll go ahead and introduce the other folks. Also on the call, we have Zach Nuberdahl. He's our Executive Vice President of Product and Strategy. Josh Nelson is our Director of Operations. And then we've also got Julia Harbison as an attendee. She's a project engineer with our engineering firm, CSW.
Okay, great. We're also joined by staff, Mark Andre, Director of Environmental Services, and Brian Ahern, our Chief of Police. Okay, so I do have some materials for the data center project. If we could start with that one. And again, if you could just go ahead and start by discussing the project design and operations, and we'll talk a little bit about the permitting process, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers from the public. I have a copy of the drawings that were shared at the pre-application that we had, but if you have something more recent that you'd like to share, that'd be great if you could put that up.
Yeah, David, I put some slides together that I thought would be helpful for today.
Sure.
So let me see if I can share my screen here. Just a sec.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right. Are you able to see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. A little slow. Let me see. Apologize.
See, there may be some restrictions on your being able to share. Nope, all panelists can share.
Please grant access to screen share. Please grant browser access to screen. Sorry. I think I did that.
Hey Philip, is it that
Okay,
last
let me
deck
try and
you
make
sent
this.
over to me? I might be able to try and
Yeah.
share it if you want to talk to it.
Yeah, sure.
All right, yeah, let me try that. Hold on.
Apologize.
Not at all.
We have a lot of security on our laptops, sometimes tough to share, and I'm not the engineer, so I'll leave it to the smart guys to do that.
Okay, great. We can see that now.
All right, cool. So next slide, Jack. Again, I just wanted to, we already introduced myself. Philip Marangella, Chief Marketing Officer. Been with the company for about 5 years. Been in the data center space for over 10 and the telecom space for over 20. And then Jack and Steve also on the team with me. So the next slide, just a little bit background on EdgeConneX. We're a global data center operator. We're privately held, as I said, based in Herndon, Virginia. So we build and operate data centers around the world, right? We build what we call carrier neutral data centers. So that means carrier refers to the networks. So we don't just have one network. We invite any and all networks, and we prefer to have many networks within our data center that can kind of interconnect with each other. Oftentimes the way we work is we collaborate with our customers to build a data center exactly to their specifications, right? In terms of location, in terms of size, and that best meets their needs. Many other providers will build a data center, wherever they think is best, and then try to invite customers to come and take space in that. As I said, we've had, been in business for over 10 years. And during that time, we've built out nearly 50 data centers across 30 plus markets across North America, Europe, and South America. And our customers are predominantly network service providers, content service providers, cloud service providers, and other guys that do, emerging technology. We don't typically support enterprise customers. We really just focus on supporting service providers. So that's generally, kind of who we are, what we do, how we do it, and so forth. And for those on the call in the community, on the next slide, what I thought would give a little bit background on data centers, kind of what goes on inside the four walls of these buildings. And like I said, there's many different types of data centers. We are referred to a co-location provider. So what does that mean, right? Our customers, and we have many different customers, co-locate their infrastructure inside our data center. So what we do is we build and we operate these facilities, right? And so as part of that building, right, we provide the kind of operational infrastructure, right? The building itself, all the cooling that goes in there, the ability to provide bandwidth and network connectivity, security, and so forth. And then the customers bring in their infrastructure, right? And they rent space from us within the building, right, for their computer servers, their storage gear, their security gear, and so forth within the data center, right? And they can take a rack, a row, an entire room, depending on the requirements of what they do in there, right? And then, on the left, that's kind of like a visualization of like what it kind of looks like inside. And there's tons of videos on YouTube, and you can find images of what goes on inside these data centers. In terms of what, again, like what we do, the equipment that we provide within the facility to operate it, right, is the power equipment, the ventilation gear, the cooling, the fire suppression, the generators, and so forth. That's all goes in to help operate the data center to make sure it's running smoothly and efficiently 24/7. So that's just an overview on the data center. The next slide kind of shows you what data centers enable, right? That at the end of the day, this is where the internet lives, right? And this is what enables the digital economy. So whether, doing a meeting like this, right? Or, streaming Netflix or listening to Spotify or playing Fortnite or shopping on Amazon or doing your banking or just, doing, calls and so forth. These are all things that the data center enables. And the visualization on the left really kind of shows you in a 1 minute, all that happens, right? Like you have over 200,000 Zoom calls taking place every single minute that are kind of initiating, right? How many YouTube videos are being streamed? Over 500,000, right? And you go down the list and so forth, and we'll make these slides available. But that's everything that's going on in a single minute, right? And it's because you now have over 4.5 billion people on the internet, right? And everybody's connecting, and especially now with COVID, right? We're all at home, we're all working, we're all streaming, we're all gaming, we're all doing this kind of stuff. And what we do at the data center helps make that happen, right? We're kind of the secret sauce that makes the internet happen and live around the world. And the key thing is that, the digital economy for the US, all these, digital components on the left generate over 1.5 trillion to the US GDP, or, across the entire country. And, there's some stats here that are freely available from the Department of Energy. I think this came from 2017, so they're already a little bit dated, but right, there's over 3 million data centers across the US, right? They're all over the place. I personally live in Ashburn, Virginia, even though I grew up in San Diego, but I live here in Ashburn, and this is actually the heart of data centers in the US. There are a ton of them all around where I live. And probably 70+% of the East Coast internet traffic comes through right here in Ashburn, Virginia. So that shows you how kind of vital they are. And so again, 90% of these are generally kind of the smaller variation, right, of data centers of the total 3 million. But at the end of the day, too, they also bring a lot of economic value, right? So obviously the data center in and of itself, but then the pull through of the other, because we co-locate many customers, there's many other companies and industries that these kind of leverage to help enable the internet and the digital economy. So that's just kind of, I thought, might be helpful for folks that want to better understand what is a data center, what goes on inside a data center, and who are the type of customers that leverage data centers. On the last slide, I want to just get to the specifics of Arcata. And thanks, Jack. What you see here is, here what we plan to do at the 1296 11th Street, right? That's the visual currently of what the plot looks like, and where we will be putting our data center. And then on the right is kind of a rendering, a visualization of what that will look like. That kind of sums it up in terms of our plans and what we do at EdgeConneX and what we help enable from a data center perspective. Jack or Steve, is there anything else that not being the technical one, but if there's any other points you think worth mentioning regard to Arcata specifically?
I think the only thing I would add, Philip, is the rendering basically is a redevelopment of the building on the left of this plot of land. We also have plans to have space for growth at a later date. So it's we're going to use the entire plot, but the building that's rendered is essentially a redevelopment of that. Again, that former hardware store that's on the left.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is that the building there in the lower right-hand side that is designated as a historical building, that is staying. That will remain in place. And to Steve's earlier point, this building here is just a redevelopment. The building stays largely intact. And it looks similar in the renderings as it does today. Just we'll have, kind of a new coat of paint and a new life for that structure.
Cool. Thanks, guys. So that's it from us. David, if you have any questions, or we can wait till the end as you had on your agenda.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, no, I guess the only question that I have heard from, a couple of people in the community, and maybe you can just address real quick before we talk a little bit about the permitting, is what the daily operations would look like at this site. Is it going to generate noise? Is it going to generate fumes? Is it going to have, people coming and going? What do the deliveries look like? Just in brief, so that people can get a sense for how the site is going to change from its former operations as a as a hardware store. I think folks would appreciate that.
Yeah, look, I think it would certainly be less traffic than you would have at a hardware store, right? Of in terms of the people coming and going. First off, right, you're not going to have the volume of people or the kind of the traffic, as I said. In terms of noise, everything's within what's permitted, by the city. In terms of that, there's nothing, like I said, I have many data centers it's almost in my backyard. These things are relatively quiet. Again, everything is within code and with what's permitted by the city in terms of that, in terms of noise or any other environmental concerns.
I guess, Philip, the only thing we'd add in terms of staffing, those types of things, the site, once it goes fully operational and, basically everything is settled, we feel that it'll be largely a lights out facility. There'll be some staffing there for care and feeding purposes, but the customer base can largely operate the facility remotely if they need to. So we don't feel that there'll be, again, any of the surface traffic streets around it would not be sort of overburdened by a large in and out of the population. It'll be largely, again, lights out.
Okay, thank you. And the drawings that we looked at during our pre-app had some expansion of the outdoor facility. Is that occurring now, or is that future expansion?
I'm sorry, David, of which facility in specific?
There were some, well, here, let me share my screen.
So on the original building, we do need to add some square footage. That is for support spaces, like offices, loading docks, conference rooms, security office, that sort of thing. But largely the existing footprint of the old hardware store stays intact, and we are just adding on a couple little sections there.
Okay.
Yep. So that is still very similar to the plan that we submitted for permit. We have made minor changes, but you can see where the addition takes place on the plan south edge of the building there. Yes, sir.
So just for the community's benefit, this is the existing footprint contained on the site right now, and it's contained within this expansion, some office spaces and that sort of thing. The backup generators and various appurtenances out here. Can you talk just a wee bit about that?
Yeah, I can do that. So the boxes with the circles in them that you see, those are just larger versions of essentially what your home air conditioner looks like. It's got the fan on it that rejects heat to the outside. So those are just larger AC units, essentially. The generators that you talked about are those 4 boxes there. Those do meet all California requirements for emissions and also any local ordinances for noise. So those will be inside enclosures that are sound attenuating to block that sound. We are also required to put a concrete wall essentially around that entire yard, which also further helps block sound and blocks the view of that equipment from the outside. So it will largely look, you can kind of see on the on the renderings that we had there, you can kind of see that block wall, but it will be painted to match the building. So it will be, a pretty contiguous and uniform look.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And those generators, they run during power outages only. Is that the?
That is correct. They are emergency situation only. So that would be when the primary power from the grid is out.
Yeah, they're entirely for backup.
Thank you for that. Great, thank you. Okay, so we're on to permitting. Natra, can you talk a little bit about the building side, and I'll talk just briefly about the planning side permitting.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's like a normal building permit. We have received the plans and we are reviewing it, and we have routed to different departments. And once we go through this process, we will be able to issue the permit in a month time, I would say. On that, I just had a question for the applicant. Do you have a construction schedule? And then I have two more additional questions on top of that. Once you answer that question.
Yes, we have a high-level construction schedule that we can share if that's something that you're looking for.
Yeah, I was just like, is it like a next year, or is it like in 6 months, or is it?
We were hoping to start right around the first of the year. Obviously, having all of the permits in place.
Okay. And then I know David touched on the hours of operation. Is that true? You'll have staff at nighttime there?
I believe the staffing is 8 to 5 only.
Okay.
Yes, yes, Jack. It's 8 to 5 in normal operation with call-out support for after hours.
Okay. And then I didn't see in the plans, but just wanted to check and confirm. Are you proposing any fences around the property? Right now, there's no fences. At least on.
So on the set that was submitted for permit, there is a fence around the building. It is the specs are on that. I think it's on the architectural sheets. We can point you in that direction for the specs on that if you need us to.
No, I think that's when we can check on that. I just want to make sure, like, what kind of fencing was that? That's it. I think that would be critical for.
Yeah, so it's a pretty standard architectural fence. It's called an Ameristar product. It's black aluminum, I believe, or black steel. It's a typical, not just data center style, but pretty typical architectural, but also security fence.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had, Dave.
Okay, and I'll just say in brief that oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nitra.
No, I'm done. You can take over.
Okay. And I have, some folks have said that you're a little hard to hear, Natra, if you can turn your mic up a little bit. In terms of the planning process, this project qualifies for an over-the-counter design review, and so essentially what we would be looking for is that they meet the city's standards for for commercial design, ensuring that they meet the setbacks and that sort of thing. And so it's a fairly there's no discretion involved. It's really just comparing the project with the codes and ensuring that it complies with the codes. And so that's sum total of the city's process. I want to open it up for public comment. And so if you can use the feature to raise your hand if you have questions. Okay, and I will allow you into the meeting to talk. Okay, Joy, you're in the meeting.
Hi, just a few comments and questions. They might be something that doesn't get answered right now, but just for later also. We live in the neighborhood that this data center will be in. And so we're pretty aware of kind of the history of various businesses in that spot. And the things that jumped out at me when you guys were just discussing, you mentioned the timeline and you said starting January of 2021. I wondered what the potential end date would be, how long this would, the rebuild or whatever would take. The other question is about some safety aspects. Someone mentioned a lights out facility, that there'd be some staff there. I just wanted to say that this area got a lot of transient activity since the hardware store has closed. That has increased because there's nothing going on there, and it's kind of a quiet, empty area. So there's lots of RV parking. Recently, there's been RVs parked in the parking lot, and an increase in graffiti. So I just hope that it sounds like it'll be a pretty quiet place compared to like the hardware store. And I think one aspect of that neighbors would appreciate is if, something that comes in there maybe helps minimize some of that transient activity, because there's a presence. So that's more of just a comment, I guess. And then the last thing related to safety is there anything out of the norm of what say a hardware store or some other type of business, as far as when I think about all the power that's going on there and power use and generators, is there anything safety wise that we would want to know about as neighbors, like extra fire hazards or anything like that would just be nice to know in advance? That's it.
Okay, yeah, I think I can handle the schedule part. If we are able to start in January, we plan on being complete and up and running sometime in September. That schedule we may be able to pull in, and it will not be heavy construction for that entire time. A lot of that, once we move into the building itself, is significantly quieter, and we do plan on abiding by all city and local codes as far as when we are able to do loud work. What time of what hours of the day. So we will abide by all of those rules, and we definitely want to be good neighbors. And if there's anything out of the norm or any concerns, we plan to be there for the long haul and want to have a good relationship with everyone. As far as security, we take that very seriously, and our customers take that very seriously. So that is part of the reason for the security fence that we have on the drawings. We also have cameras all around the facility, and it will be pretty much off limits to anyone except for authorized users. So no one will be able to gain access, without authorization. If somebody does end up getting over the fence, we will know about it, and we will, at that point, dispatch the appropriate parties to take care of it. So we understand that concern. And then as far as additional safety concerns, we don't, kind of to Philip's earlier point, here out in Virginia, Northern Virginia, we live in, essentially Data Center Alley. And a lot of people live in very, very close proximity to facilities that are, multiple times larger than this. And, all of the equipment that we use is fully authorized and rated by all of the governing bodies that govern over manufacturers in this equipment. And, we definitely choose only the highest quality equipment to put into our facilities, and we maintain those at a very high level because we need to be running 24/7, and that's what our customers expect, and that's what we commit to. So we do all we can to mitigate any additional risks, but I really don't see that there is any higher risk than any other building that would be in that space.
And
Thank you.
just to add on, those are good
go ahead.
questions, Joy. Just to add on what Jack said, that's why I tried to show much of what we do is inside the four walls, right? So, and to your question about some, secure, like, don't think of like power lines, right? Like living too close to power lines and, what those effects might be, right? This is all within the building and, relatively quiet unless there's, you have to use, at times with the backup generators, still within permit, but that's the exception when the power goes out, and it's just like anything else. So, but I appreciate your questions and concerns, and same on the graffiti, right? When we come in, we clean up the entire property and kind of revitalize it from that perspective. Sorry,
Great,
David.
thank you for that. No, not at all, not at all. I do want to do a time check. We've got a couple more hands raised, four more hands, so we'll get to those. And then we want to make sure and save time for the Conduit Project, and we're hoping to close by about 1. Marilyn, you're in the meeting.
Thank you. I'm curious why you chose Arcata for this project, and where is your next closest facility to Arcata? And what do you expect to contribute to the community of Arcata?
Okay. Well, thank you for the question, Marilyn. As I said in the beginning, in terms of our business, we go where our customers want us to go. And so we have several customers that, wanted Arcata, right? And, we have many data centers around the world. The closest, we're in Silicon Valley, we're in Santa Clara, we're also up in Portland and up in Seattle. So we have Sacramento, San Diego as well in the California region. And in terms, I'm sorry, your other question, in terms of the community, right? So, data centers in general, as Jack said, where we live in Ashburn, they obviously, I tried to touch on it in terms of what data centers enable, right? In terms of the digital economy and so forth. And, these are, key enablers for the digital economy. So they obviously are locations where many of these leading service providers like to come and connect and meet with each other, right? Much like, you think about like an airport exchanging people. These data centers are, you're flying out of San Francisco to connect to London and this, that, and that. Same inside a data center, right? What's happening is, these different companies are exchanging data and exchanging traffic between networks and, whatever they may be, content and what have you. And that's what goes on. So I think these things are good for a community in the standpoint of evolving into the digital economy from that perspective.
Okay.
I guess more
Yep.
tangibly, Philip, we also will have a few additional headcounts. I mean, that would be people coming into the community or jobs for people in the community that's already there. So that's always a net positive. They're more technical. They will, they contribute to the local economy.
Okay, thank you for that. And for folks that are wishing to comment, I did want to acknowledge that I'm allowing you in to ask your question, and then I'm moving to the answer and then moving to the next person to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free to raise your hand again, and if we have time, we'll come back to you. Judith, you're in the meeting.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question about the expected power use of the facility. How much electricity will be used, and also if you would be open to making the facility carbon neutral by contributing to the support of Arcata's community forest or other renewable energy options in our area.
Well, I'll start first, and then either Jack or Steve can touch on the usage. From a carbon perspective, sustainability is a key initiative for us overall. So we are already, what we procure are renewable energy credits, and we use wind-based renewable energy to offset any of the carbon emissions that we do. And this is across our entire platform. So Arcata will be included as part of that initiative. We are certainly open to other ideas and suggestions, as you mentioned, Judith, around specifically local, and would take that under consideration as part of our overall sustainability efforts. In terms of the power usage specifically, I'll defer to the smarter folks from the EdgeConnects team on that one. Jack?
Yeah, so when we're fully built out and fully operational, and this is a little bit dependent again on our customers, but I think what we've kind of planned on seeing as a maximum load would be around 1500 kVA, which is roughly 1.5 MV, if that, or MVA, if that means anything to you. I'm trying to figure out a better way to explain that.
I mean, the only thing I'll say is that relative to some of the other data centers that we build and operate, this is very small from a power usage perspective. For example, in Amsterdam, we have one that's, over 100 megawatts, right? And so this is, an extremely small fraction of that. So it's not a significant amount of power relative to many other data centers, but that gives you a rough estimate in terms of the figures.
I can give you an idea.
Thanks. I've been told that my.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say a wind turbine is roughly rated for about 1.5 megawatts per hour. So would be roughly equivalent to a single wind turbines in terms of the energy usage, to get just idea scale.
Okay, and just as a follow-up to that, did you have plans to have solar or some sort of generation on site? I think was one of the questions.
It's not currently.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, it's not currently in plan.
Okay.
Because of a data center's 24/7 nature, it doesn't lend itself to that as other than an augment for peaker loads, those types of things. But obviously, as technology improves, we always look at those things on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, for solar to be effective, you would need a large amount of real estate that would be bigger than the entire plot of land to provide an adequate enough source of power for us. So we will just be getting our power from the utility.
Okay, thank you. Sean, you're in the meeting.
Hello, aloha. This is Sean.
Okay,
McLaughlin.
we can hear you now.
Okay, thanks. I'm with a local organization called Access Humboldt that helps to get people access to media and broadband for the region. So I have to note that I did go to Herndon High School. So go
nice.
Hornets, go the Herndon.
Yeah. I lived in Reston, so yeah, cool.
Reston didn't have a high school when I was there, but anyway. I guess I find it I just want to say I find it super exciting what you're doing. I think for a lot of folks don't know the difference between a data center and a co-location sort of data center. And I think you explained that really well. And to me, that's the most exciting part of the project, is that you will in effect be creating a place for any other provider in our area to interconnect with every other provider, which we have not had. And sometimes that's called an internet exchange facility, or
Yeah.
But it for us locally, it reminds us that it really is empowering when we think about a decentralized web or a distributed web and the intelligent edge opportunities of sort of developing our own community capacity. So I find that all very exciting, and I hope that you'll find ways to engage with our local community to have those ongoing discussions.
Yeah.
So I guess my related question would be, and we're gonna, and I guess I'll also mention we'll be very interested in who your clients are and your customers, but I wasn't clear with the way you described it. So you guys will own and operate this facility, right? When you say the client, you're building it for your client, you mean for the tenants, right? Is that
correct?
Okay. So my hope is that you guys would think about setting aside or facilitating access for small local ISPs and community networks or municipal networks and other local infrastructure that we're trying to develop in our region. And none of which would be even possible without a co-location facility. So
Right.
thank you for
Well,
providing the opportunity, and I hope that you'll hold the door open for the small local players who might want to be part of that.
yeah. Well, thank you, Sean, for your comments. And you're absolutely correct. We will have what's called a meet me room, right? And that's a specific location where local, regional, national, global networks can come interconnect and peer with each other, right? So that those exist in all of our facilities. And you're absolutely right that having a co-location type of facility like this will enable that. Cool.
All right, thank you. I've got a couple more hands up. I do want to save some time though to get to the other project, and I will note that I am able to stay on a little after the 1 o'clock if you all are, and so I am going to invite those folks who didn't get a chance yet to speak on this to be able to speak first when we get to the closing comments section. And also to follow up with me directly to any questions that you have that weren't answered, and we'll try and get to those as well. So I am going to transition at this point to the Conduit Project. So can we do just quick introduction and go ahead and tell us about your project? If you have a presentation, I'll allow you to share.
Sure thing. Hi, David. This is Dave Jones again, CTO at Vero Fiber Networks. We didn't prepare a presentation, but I just have some kind of talking points to go through, and then we'll go from there. So first, a little background on Vero. We are a fiber network operator. We're based out of Boulder, Colorado. We have operations in about 15 states around the country. We are a licensed competitive telecom carrier in 19 states, including California, which is the license that lets us build and operate fiber optic networks. And our main business is to build and operate these networks, fiber optic and conduit infrastructure to serve high bandwidth customers in selected targeted markets around the country where there's a customer need. Our customer base, we serve a couple different markets. We kind of got started serving the K-12 education market. That's our biggest market so far. We also serve state and local government entities, data center connectivity, which is how you should think of this project, and also regional carriers and internet service providers. We often build backbone fiber networks for them to utilize. You can find more detail about us on our website. It's Vero, V-E-R-O networks with an S.com, if anybody would like to look into that. So the projects, quick summary of the projects here. So Phil explained, the purpose of the data center. So fiber is what connects data centers together and what connects data centers to ultimately users. Even if those users are on a mobile phone, those mobile networks are connected together into the data centers by fiber. So fiber is kind of the connecting tissue, if you will, of the internet. And fiber runs inside of conduits, which is the plastic piping that protects them, that goes underground. So that's the way to think of what we're doing here. We're building two separate routes. They both terminate at this data center that we just talked about. One goes down to Samoa Beach along the peninsula, following State Route 255, west side of Arcata Bay. And then the other route goes down the east side of the bay, following Old Arcata Road, and terminates just east of the town of Eureka at another fiber network connection point, which already exists out there. So each of these routes is about 10 miles long, and then a portion of that is within the city of Arcata. They're going to be constructed using, it's all underground network. It's going to be using a trenchless construction technique. So it generally is called horizontal directional boring. So for the most part, there won't be any disruption of the surface of the ground, except at the points where we insert the drills and drill to the next point. And at those locations, we'll be installing access points, which are generally manholes or smaller handholds, depending on the location, and those are flush with the surface of the ground or the sidewalk, wherever it may be. So you probably drive by or walk over or drive over these things every day and don't really notice them. So once the project is complete, there'll really be no visual indicator of it being there, since it's all underground, other than the top of these handholds, which will be flush with the ground. So that's really a quick overview of the project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I'll put the questions to the public right after we describe quickly the permitting process. Netra, can you address that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's similar. Right now, we have received 2 encouragement from the applicant for these routes that David just mentioned, and we still under review process, and we anticipate to hopefully issue a permit early next year. And I believe the construction schedule for them is at least starting early next year, and at least in the city of Arcata, they will be for at least 5 months constructing or installing those conduits. So based on the plans, they have shown details of the drawings, and we are reviewing them, and they have shown the traffic control plans. So there may be some disruption during the construction, especially at the intersections when they are installing the manholes. But there will be appropriate notifications to public when the construction starts. So there'll be a good amount of outreach before we start installation work on that. So that's all I have from my side.
Okay, thank you. And I have to apologize. I'm receiving information that my voice is somewhat garbled, so I apologize for that. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the public. There are no planning processes associated with this project. Karina, I'm going to start with you. You can unmute yourself.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Yay. These access points, I am curious as to whether they're going to be in the roadbed or on the shoulder.
On the shoulder. The only place where they would be not on the shoulder is in the parts of town where there's only roadbed and sidewalk. But for the vast majority of the route, as soon as you get out of those couple of blocks, they'd be in the soft shoulder.
Okay.
All contained within the highway right of way.
This area suffers from a severe lack of safe bicycle infrastructure. And Old Arcata Road and 255 both suffer from not enough shoulder. So manhole covers on the shoulders, just one
it
more
would be
option.
Yeah, it would be several feet off to the pavement side of the pavement where nobody would be riding a bicycle.
Okay. Off the pavement.
Yes. I'm a cyclist myself, so believe me, I have very sensitive to those sort of things. So understand.
Okay, Bob, you are in the meeting.
Yeah, my question is about the route comes through the north toward my house, which is right by the university. Will this be tied in with the university data exchange?
Not at this point. It's think of it as an express route connecting those two endpoints that I described. However, we would certainly our goal, our plan is to find other uses for this infrastructure going forward, and we would certainly love to talk to the university about you know, how we can help them with connectivity as well. So today, no, it's not part of this application.
Jim, you're in the meeting now.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Great. First, I'd like to echo Sam McLaughlin's comments. I think this is a big win for Arcata and Humboldt. And my comment is, having worked in data centers for much of my career, I've become aware of an emerging concern in some data center locations nearby residential areas. And that concern is low level but persistent noise coming from the outside HVAC equipment. And in some of these locations, the existing codes have proven to be insufficient to mitigate the nuisance. And I'm not looking to expect this to be a problem. This is a very small data center from my perspective, but I am calling it out and suggesting that the city, or asking the city and the data center owners to work together after go live in case these noise issues surface. Again, there's not a lot of HVAC equipment that I see. I'm used to seeing 20 acres of HVAC equipment. So I don't expect to be a problem, but we like our quiet out on the coast. And I just wanted to call that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim, thanks. This is Philip. Thanks for the comment. I agree. You know, it is relatively small. We are working with the city and under current code, but as Jack said, we want to be a good neighbor too. So we'll continue to collaborate on that front.
Thank you. Joy, you're in the meeting.
Hi, just a couple questions on the conduit. I heard in a start time of early next year. Didn't quite hear if there was how long it would last, so maybe a rough end time. And then the other question is for the 11th Street route, will there be anything going on 12th, which is, you know, cross street, 12th and M, which is the corner of the hardware store where the data center would be?
Hey, I'm going to have to take a quick look at the map before I answer the second question. But yeah, we're planning to start construction in January as well. We expect the whole project to take roughly 12 months, but we don't expect to be doing construction in the city of Arcata for that whole time. We plan to start on that end and basically work our way south on the two routes. So I would think we should be done working in the city probably April to May timeframe, and then of course we would be complying with, you know, whatever restrictions come with the permit in terms of the hours that we could be working, et cetera, and obviously traffic control requirements would all be met. So and it would be obviously during kind of business hours.
All right, thank you for that.
And I will pull up the map real quick. I'm sorry, what was the intersection you were asking about?
It was 12th and M as in Mary.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So actually, we're coming in just short of that. We're coming in on M Street on that west side of the data center, maybe halfway up that block is the closest we would get to 12th and M. So we wouldn't make it all the way to 12th Street.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
From the south.
Marilyn?
What is your purpose in installing the cable out to Samoa? And why did you choose that route?
Yep. So we're going to be building to the Harbor District there on the east side of Old Navy Road, which is the planned termination point of a subsea cable system.
Thank you. And we've got one more question here.
Aloha, this is Sean. Thank you so much, Dave, for the presentation, and welcome Vero Networks. We don't a new CLEC to our region. I think it's very important. I just wanted to share with you that we've recently realized that we haven't done a real good job of mapping all the community anchor institutions within our county. And so we'll invite you to participate with us in completing our community anchor list, because that we've been trying to figure out how to solve these things for ourselves, and having a partner like Vero Networks come to our community and makes us very hopeful. So I want to push that out there. And then I want to ask how you view the sort of, we don't currently have dig once policies really in place in our local governments, but you of course understand the theory is anytime that the public easements are being, disturbed or utilized for infrastructure development, it makes a lot of sense to add a little extra capacity so that a competitor or an alternative network provider might share that conduit. Is that something you folks have considered? Is there any consideration of offering the city or the county or the public agencies some access to the conduit for municipal or community broadband development?
We're definitely open to that, and in fact, we are in active discussions with the county, with Humboldt County, around identifying specific kind of use cases and opportunities for that. So yes, we're open to that. We would very much welcome to leverage this infrastructure for multiple users and purposes. One thing I will say is we are not a last mile broadband provider, so we're not going to be providing residential services. We generally serve high bandwidth users, like the categories I mentioned at the beginning. However, we would definitely like to partner with somebody that does want to provide, company that does want to provide last mile broadband service, and make our infrastructure available to support that. So in other words, view us as the middle mile or the backbone, and somebody else taking it from there to the residents or the business.
Okay, great, thank you. I do have a follow-up from Sean and one question from Judith. I want to note that we're just slightly over time, so I want to check in with the applicants and project proponents and see if it's okay if we take just a couple more questions.
Hey, David, this is Jack. I'll be on at least from Edge Connects.
Okay.
Yeah, Philip as well.
Okay, great.
We're good here.
Great. Okay, so Judith.
Yeah, and I think this may be as much to David as to the Veronet's folks. You mentioned that this is not any kind of a discretionary approval, it's ministerial. And I'm wondering if this project is exempt from CEQA, especially considering that it is part of this larger intended project to connect to the sub-ocean cable. It seems to me that that may bring in some other aspects that a purely local project might not have.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So we have applied for and received a CEQA exemption from this CPUC for this project. It's available. It's the details are on their website if you would like to chase it down, or I'd be happy to share that document with you. But we've received those.
Yeah, and the permits that are being issued by the city of Arcata are all ministerial permits, and so those do not trigger CEQA having been ministerial. Mark Andre, our Environmental Services Director, has wanted to speak for some time. So, Mark.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, just one comment on the electricity use. There is the option to opt up to 100% renewable. You know, when you're purchasing your power through the utility, that's an option here. I just wanted to just relay that information. The other question is more general. Are these data centers typically in you know, city centers or downtown areas or outskirts or, you know, on the fringes, industrial corridors?
Be surprised at where data centers like this actually pop up on your local maps. Me personally, I live in a small town, not Herndon, where our operations are at, and I have a large, I'll call it one of the big five, literally in basic town center. No one knew about it, even though there was generators out back. No one even knew about it until they applied for a power permit to basically triple the size. So that actually got the town a little bit in an uproar, but the actual data center was in operation for 5 years before it really made a mark in the community. So it's an interesting question. Thank you. The comment on the renewables, we always leave it open to our customers. Typically renewables have a different price point. We always offer it if they want to procure it that way. We do whatever they want when it comes to our acquisitions and sourcing decisions.
I mention it because it would help the city with its climate action plan or our greenhouse gas reduction plan to recommend it.
Okay, absolutely. I think Jack and I, we get on calls regularly with our customer base on this project specifically, and we'll bring it up as, again, remind them that they have the option.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like there may be one more question here. So I haven't shown the agenda in a little bit, but we are kind of rounding up on the closing comments section, and so I wanted to make sure the public had an opportunity first. Got one more comment here. It looks like Judy, you're in the meeting.
Yeah, I think that I asked the questions that I had. I'd also love to encourage them to offset energy use in the ways that Arcata is making so easily possible.
Great, thank you. Bob?
Yeah, my main question is to do with the old buildings that are there. This is it's been referred to as the hardware store. Nelson built a hardware store there a few years ago. That old building was Copeland Lumber, and that was basically used by a youth organization called Outer Space. And I wondered what's happening to that part of the property, which is actually on 11th Street.
Yeah, I can answer that. So that is the building, to my knowledge, that we have referred to as having historical significance to the area. That is to remain in place. We are not, we do not plan on, nor are we allowed to, do anything to that building without some pretty strict approvals from at least the city, due to that designation as historical. We, in our initial talks with the city, were open to ideas, both today and moving forward, as to the future of that building. But our current plan is to leave it as is, at least the part that is designated as historical. So it will not be altered for any kind of data center use. It will remain in place and be secured, so no vandalism, no unauthorized use, that sort of thing will take place.
All right, thank you. Jack, do you or your team have any closing comments you wanted to make to the community before we close down?
I'll let Philip follow up on this because he waxes poetically a little bit better than I do. But I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to meet with us and let us explain the project. And hopefully we have explained it in a way that's both made sense and put people at ease a little bit versus hearing there's a data center coming. Well, what does that mean? You can look it up online and you see these giant buildings, and we definitely understand the concern. We live in Data Center Alley, so we're very attuned to it, and we just hope that we've explained it in a way that your concerns have been addressed, and if they haven't, certainly let us know, and we're here to be good neighbors. We plan on being here for a long time, and we don't want to be the guys in town that are not wanted. We want to make this successful for everyone.
Yeah, just to add again, first off, thank you, David, for organizing this. I appreciate all the questions. Feel free to reach out to myself. If you have any other follow-up questions, if you do, further research on data centers and so forth, or you wanted some clarification, feel free to reach out. We wanted to take the time, to listen to any concerns or any questions you might have. Unfortunately, and I would have loved to be there in person, but it's a beautiful part of the country. I've been up to Mendocino. But yeah, happy to hear you out and look forward to being a part of the community going forward. So thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Philip. And I did have a question from a community member as to how to get a hold of you. Is that okay to give your email address out?
Yeah, it's pmarangella@edgeconnects.com. So feel free to give that out. It's PMARANGELLA@edgeconnects.com.
Thank you. And Dave, do you want to close for your team or?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'd like to echo thanks to the city and to everybody else, the residents, other interested parties that participated today. So happy to answer any follow-on questions you might have going forward. My email address is djones@vero, VERO networks with an S.com. And we look forward to helping play a role in the improving broadband, throughout the region and the community going forward. So we just view this as the first step of hopefully a lot more impact that we can have there to improve connectivity. So thank you.
All right. Yeah, and I wanted for our team to thank you all for taking the added time out to speak to our community and to address their concerns. And I really appreciate your openness to having follow-up questions with the community. They may take you up on that. And so, Netra or Mark, Jen, does anybody else on our team have any closing thoughts?
I'm good, Dave. Thank you again.
Yeah, and I want to thank the folks that joined us from the community today that took the time out to listen in on this project. And certainly you can reach out to me and or the project proponents or Netra to find out more information about the projects if you feel like your questions weren't answered. So thank you so much. With that, we'll end.
Thanks again, everyone.